I'm from that dirt. I'm all about that dirt. I'm throwing dirt. I miss that dirt. Gotta get back to I'm a dirt trackaholic. Call it what you call it. Saturday night, I am so Kenny Wallace on that dirt. I miss that dirt. Gotta get back to it. I've been the Kenny Wallace of the rap game ever since I hit him with that dirt track thing. Now nationwide, everybody knows my name. They're like, Mama, that's Kenny Montgomery. He sings that song we like. Yeah, boy, that's me. Roll out the trailer, I'm flossing. Them Hoosier tires glossing. Them cold kind we're tossing. They know I came to wreck it, yet I rarely bring out a caution. I hit the high side, boy, I park it for Brian Clausen.
Welcome to Throttled Up, the podcast. Often imitated, never duplicated. Your weekly home for the best in motorsports coverage.
And welcome back to Throttled Up, the podcast. And I am live here in studio tonight with the guys from Mastersbilt Racecars. I've got Tater Masters, and back at home again at Mastersbilt, Rick Hidden Magic Gum. Gentlemen, I know we've been trying to do this for a while, and we had some miscommunication on my part. Tater, you were under the weather there one night, and but I wanted to get you guys back in here because obviously Rick coming back in the fold at Mastersbilt and some of the stuff that you guys are working on right now is big stuff. But how is things right now, guys? Coming out of the pandemic, how's things at Mastersbilt?
Man, you wouldn't believe that there's ever a pandemic down there. We've probably been as busy as we've been for probably the last 5 or 6 years. It's just unbelievable how many cars we got to put together right now, assemble. We went from used to building a lot of frames, sending them out the door, and now they're anywhere from semi-complete to fully complete cars.
How much does that, that idea of going from just building frames to that full complete car, how much effort and work does that add to you guys?
Well, a lot of it's got to do with logistics, getting enough parts in there to do it. This pandemic has strained everybody in the racing industry as far as getting parts, especially a lot of the stuff that comes from the West Coast. The California area has really been hit hard. And then the Pennsylvania area up around the Winters and them has been pretty hard to get rear ends from too. But, man, there's a lot of pieces that goes on them cars that the price has increased anywhere from 15 to 30%. So that makes it a little bit harder too. But we're busy at the shop. We're very fortunate and blessed. But we got some pretty good guys down in the Southeast running. Dustin Mitchell really give us a kick in the rump this year to get us some cars down that area. The McCarters that race down there, 411 Speedway, that own it. Pearson won the hangover race. Well, they have the leftover and a hangover. I was trying to figure out which one it was. So that sure give us a kick in the pants too. But we've been racing some with Pearson, the boys down there. They had to take off a little bit of time. They had some family issues there, so we was parked for a while. But we're going to race the race on Monday night, the Memorial Day race at 411. Then we got some Smoky Mountain stuff scheduled, and we got actually a new crate car we're putting together down there for Pierce and Mitch and them guys to run. So we're trying to get more involved in the crate stuff because it is so huge in the Southeast and the East. So we're trying to get into that market some more.
And that's a great point. With last year, I got to travel and film the American Crate All-Star Series down there in Tennessee and Georgia and watch it. And people in Indiana, I think they know what crate racing is, but when you get down there to the Southeast and the Eastern, crate racing's a whole different ball game down there.
Yeah, well, the big difference in racing in the South is, and we actually got the test at 411 on December the 18th. That was unheard of for us because I've never did nothing like that unless it'd been in Florida. But December the 18th, we tested at 411 Speedway down there. And Mitch, being the track owner down there, he can prepare it so it's ready to go when you get there. You can get it tractioned up or you can get it as slick as ice. So it makes it pretty easy to learn right there. But no, them guys in the Southeast, they're racing 12 months a year, where the guys up here only race, 7-8 months. And that makes a big difference, which it also made a difference in how many cars and how much product you need to get built anymore to service these guys. But I mean, it's good for the industry, but I think it can get a guy burnt out. But the thing is, though, if you can get down there and race some races and do your testing and compete 12 months a year, it'll make you a lot better racing than the guy that gets to run 6 or 7 months.
Absolutely. And Rick, I'm going to jump to you because last time we had you on and talking, you were dominating the pure stock class and ruffling a lot of feathers, I guess would be the best way to put it. And you've taken some time back now and came back here to Masterbilt. And I kind of want to start from the beginning because you made a great point before we went on air, and you talked about that core group of guys that have been with the Masters down there at Mastersbilt, and talked about how when all of you guys walked in, none of you could build a race car, and the experiences that you've had there, the lessons you've learned, are the skills that you have today. And so kind of go back to that when you originally came to Mastersbilt, and then what's brought you back now.
I wouldn't have done what I'd done in that car that brought me on this show the first time if I hadn't went to work down there back in the 90s. I was an 18, 19-year-old kid out of high school, and how it all happened, the poor old bean. But a good friend of mine, and it was a wedding reception, and Taylor looked at me. He said, "You got a job?" I said, "I just quit my job." I said, "No, I ain't got a job." He said, "Come down to the shop." And I went down to the shop, green. Hell, I didn't know anything. And I walked in there. They gave me the job, and me and Brad, that's what I done. Me and Brad worked there in the aluminum side of it, assembly side of it, and that's all. That's what people don't understand is I didn't build chassis when I was there. I built chassis on my own, but how I was able to do that was from learning from what I done there. And, we sit there and we put the, man, that was the heyday. I mean, that, you walk in the shop, big race of Brownstown, hell, Jack Boggs would be there, Ronnie Johnson, or, Bart Hartman, it just on and on and on and on. Just, I've sat there and I've been able to talk to every great race, dirt late model racer in the country because of that place. It was amazing, but it was everyday life for us, and once I left there and you think back, I was like, shit, we really got to talk to some, got to be around some, Billy Moyer, just a lot of good people, and not just racers, good crew guys, good guys that have become something else in the industry. We was just talking about Brian Dunaway today. That guy went down to Morrisville. He's working for a cup team. He'd been down there for a year. The guy raced a late model back in the 90s and was coming over there. Just so many people that I've met because of that place. And then I leave the place for 25 whatever years, and then Tater somehow horned me back into this deal. But no, what people don't understand is, especially anybody locally around here, that place ain't dead. It's coming. I mean, we're not down there screwing off and waiting for the funeral, the procession. We're rolling. I mean, Tater has done a hell of a job to turn it around, and I'm just fortunate to be a part of it now that he's got it headed the right direction. And man, we got a lot of things to figure out, but we're definitely going the right direction.
And before you jump in, Tater, I think that's a huge point that you just brought up, because there is so many people who either A, think it's closed, or B, all the rumors that it's closing, or it's sold, or it's moving, and I always laugh because living here in Crothersville, I always say Well, I just saw Tater at Thirsty's the other night. Like, they're here. Like, or I drove by the shop and so-and-so's truck and trailer was down there dropping something off or picking something up. Like, when you're around here, you guys are you're moving. I mean, stuff is going on. So it is very exciting to see that next direction that Mastersbilt's headed.
Yeah, well, the last year when I got to race with HUD, you know what I mean, it was a blessing for what we got to do, but it was really premature. I needed to run probably race a year with his dad, Don, and get us some stuff laid down where we could work off of. We tried to do that deal shotgun from the hip, and really we was under finance, which we had a lot of good people to help us, and I hadn't been on the road for 2 or 3 or 4 years, and it hurt. It hurt bad, but after we stepped back and we separated, me and HUD still talks pretty much every week. Me and Don talks a lot, and I've got better, and you know, I mean, HUD throws me a bone every once in a while, and I back and forth, and I've gotten involved with some more people. I got to do some more testing and just got more knowledge, and it's helped us get better. Now, can we get out there and compete right now and win a World of Outlaw race or Lucas? With the right driver and the right team, you can. But we just need to keep on doing what we're doing and keep going forward and gaining. Guys, regardless whether you win them races or not, you still got to pay your guys when it comes Wednesday. So whether it's building the 604s, the 602, the steelhead late models, the open late models, that's what we got to do. The bottom line in that shop is when it comes Wednesday, you got to pay all your guys and pay yourself, because if you're going to go in there and work 6-7 days a week or 5 days, whatever it might be, at the end of the week, none of it makes no money. It's no fun, which I love racing, and I've worked, you know, I mean, years doing this, and I've had weeks that I haven't got paid. But you know, I mean, here since the been end of the year and whatever, we've really did good, and you know, like I say, it'll come in time. And if we don't win the World 100 or the Dream or the Jackson again, whatever it is, the bottom line is that all my guys is getting paid, and we're moving forward.
Well, and I also want to throw out, and we talked to him last week on our pre-race show there at Brownstown Speedway, but Justin Bowling was talking about, you know, just the service and what you guys had done for him. He broke an axle tube the week before and didn't notice it till Tuesday, and he talked about the fact that, you know, he got with you guys, he got it up there, you guys got it fixed and back to him by Thursday. He was back ready to go to the race. And, you know, I think people don't always realize that and how important that is. You know, we can talk all we want about these big touring guys, but to Justin Bowling, that meant everything, because Saturday night he was back at the racetrack ready to race.
Yeah, that makes a difference. And I give you another example that happened. And there's a gentleman that bought a new car from us from Rome, Georgia. He's actually a tree trimming guy. And he called up there one day, and he didn't think that he got the service he did. So, you know, this Facebook Live, you know, I mean, this social media goes everywhere anymore. Well, telling you, one of the guys who races our cars, Colton Jackson, sent Geraldine a link to watch it. She said, "Tater, have you seen this?" I said, "No." And I went and looked at it. I said, "Oh my God," you know what I mean? So I've kind of put Josh in charge of that, but we got it working. He's got a complete car we're building, but honestly, the whole situation made me realize it don't make any difference if these guys that race these cars has got $2 million or they got a $500 or $1,000. You got to treat them the same. And since then, our service has been second to none.
Well, it's just like the deal with Justin. I mean, his problem was huge to him. It wasn't such a big deal to us. I mean, we you know, that's what we do, you know. So I guess some people overreact, just like the guy he's talking about. That, you know, they kind of get a little bit, because they can't fix it. They can't fix the problem, or they can't come to the end of the problem with, you know, but we can, and it's not that big a deal. And actually that whole week there, the fixing Justin's car, we fixed Skylar Lewis's. We done the same thing for Skylar Lewis like the next day. So I mean, it's not really we are there to take care of our people, you know, take care of our race cars, take care of, I mean, you know, so people that don't believe or don't think that we're doing this, they're wrong. We're doing it. I mean, this is what we're doing.
And this may be a ridiculous question, but do you have any idea, ballpark, how many Mastersbilt cars are out there running right now?
I don't know how many is out there running now, but I'm telling you, since Keith and my brother started that thing years ago, I figured we'd built over like 7,000 or 8,000 cars. That's probably on the low end.
Well, we didn't. There wasn't a serial number on a car until 90.
Until 90,
That narrow car.
We really started numbering them cars real good at 2,000.
Yeah.
And I think down at the shop night right now we're 3,000 maybe.
Yeah.
Since you started numbering them.
And 2,000.
Yeah.
See, that's unbelievable.
And there's a few of them that don't get numbers every once in a while. But that's a lot of race cars. And there's nothing. And you would not believe how many guys that'll call down there at the shop. And Gerald said, "Hey Tater, you need to get this one." This guy will call you and he gives you a serial number like a 128 or 28. I said, "Man, that thing's a 2,000." I said, "You realize that thing's 20 years old?" And then you'll get one that's 05 and 06, and they're winning races.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Say, hey, you got to support them and help them.
Well, what's that car down there to Volusia? Is it Volusia that's winning all them races? And it's what, an 04, 5, 6?
Yeah, it's pretty old.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Again, and we were kind of talking off air, and Rick, you brought it up there with we're not on the World of Outlaws, we're not on Lucas, blah blah blah. But what people don't realize is you go out, and just a few weeks ago I called the Indiana Pro Late Models at Bloomington. I announced that race, and I think of the 25 cars that were there, I think 11 of them were Masterbilt chassis. Mm-hmm. Again, and that's not just here locally. Any crate race you go to, you're going to see Mastersbilts in the field, and they're still running, they're still competing, they're still doing well.
There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of them in the southeast, southeast down there. And that little Colton Jackson that runs down around Rome and Dixie and 411, and he runs at the one there at Chattanooga. It used to be Boyd's, Boyd Speedway. Man, he wins a ton of races. I'm telling you, and that was the new car we built a couple years ago. But there's a lot of them out there. I'm telling you, if you can, and we get a lot of emails and a lot of Facebook posts and whatever where guys win races. That Michael Roush has run good down there in the South. So we got some good guys, and we got a couple good guys running Volusia Speedway. But now, don't get me wrong, it's not a TV race that's put on, dirt on dirt or whatever. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of good racers out there.
That's overrated. We ain't worried about that stuff.
Well, it goes back to what you just said earlier. It doesn't matter whether they got $2 million in the account or it's 500. It's that big to them, and it's that important to them.
Exactly.
So looking ahead, obviously, where's the future of Mastersbilt? Where are we headed towards?
Well, we got a lot of stuff that we've been working on and wanting to do. The problem is that we're minimal on help. Like Rick and Josh and myself. And we got another guy that helps us, North Vernon. We call him 2-Day Jay because he works either 2 or 3 days.
Let's give him a little bit of credit. 3 days.
3 days.
3 days.
He's good help,
He is. He's good help.
And then Chris comes in and helps us for night. But and everybody anymore looks at their jobs on pay scale, and as well as I do, health insurance is a big issue anymore in the jobs that people's got. And when you have somebody that comes and works somewhere else, even though he hates his job, and he's got some pretty good benefits, how you say, you need to quit that and come down here. You know what I mean? Because it puts more strain on me. But like I say, we got some good people we're working with, and like I said, the McCarters is a big part of my racing right now. Which Mac down there, he's 27, and Pierce is 29 or 30, so they got a good future ahead of them, and they're pretty well financed, so they can do what they want to do. Now, are they going to race a touring series? No, because they both got children and they're family people. And there's nothing wrong with that. They race because they love it,
Hey, this whole touring deal, this whole World of Outlaws Lucas Oil deal, man, look at them. They're falling off like, it's crazy. And I don't want to bash those series because we need them. We need them series. But the thing about it is not many people can sustain doing that. You know what I mean? And it's starting to show up.
Yeah. Here's the deal. When I raced that deal with Don from 08 to the end of 13, 14, when you commit to that, takes off that many years of your life. I went for 5 years that I didn't do nothing but go to the races and race them cars. And, you know, we had a good business back then, and we did really good. But, you know, there's probably only two people gives a shit that I did that and wasted 5 years. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And basically, the racer deal is they want you to help them. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. But, I mean, the age that I'm getting, I got to have a little bit of time for me, too.
Absolutely.
Which I still love racing. And I think I'm better when I don't have to go every weekend and wear myself out and beat myself up. I learn more testing them cars pretty much anymore than I do racing. And I used to think the other way around, but still I like to go race them. But the more time that you can get on a racetrack to test in a good test environment. You know, I mean, I've been down there in the South and tested 2 or 3 times. And we was at the track with Jimmy Owens and Dale McDowell and, you know, me and a few other guys. How can you say, well, we was enter testing, but we didn't have a good judge or a good car to compare to? Damn, man, that's 2 of the best races in the country. So, you mean, you can judge what you do against them. And, you know, I mean, we got where we could get around some of them tracks pretty good, and they're always inviting us to come because they want to see how they stack up against us. Hey, some of these regional racers is pretty good, like that Rice kid over at Florence.
Mm-hmm.
Kid's pretty awesome over there. So if you want to go practice over there when he's there to see how you stack up.
Absolutely. And when you talk about that whole flip from, you know, you used to think you learn more racing than testing. Do you think that's because the way these cars have changed, that setup and hitting the setup is so much more important than having a guy that can just wheel it no matter how it's set up?
Well, I don't care what they say. You still got to have somebody to wheel it. And there's some of this younger generation that's running pretty good. I just think that they can get up on that wheel a little bit better. Hey, I'm telling you, sitting right there, ain't none of them guys out there no better than Don. The only thing they got on Don is he's a little bit older. And Scott, you can't do nothing with that Scott. That Scott is one of the best or the best. You know what I mean? Age catch up, Father Time catches up with you. You know what I mean? We got aches and pains and problems that we didn't used to have.
If Scott woke up tomorrow morning and said, you know what, I want to go win the World 100, I believe he'd win the World 100. I mean, if he woke up tomorrow and said, that's what I'm going to go do.
I think if he one-offed it 100%, I think what's hurt him in a lot of those races was still trying to tour, and he is at the age where it wears him out.
You know, he got hurt on this bike and done this, done that, whatever, and, you know, there's always all of that conspiracy stuff. But
well, I said it the other day.
I'm just telling you, I do believe that Scott, he's still got a little bit left in him, and I'm telling you, if he wakes up and says, I'm going to go win the World 100, he's going to go win the World 100.
Well, even this SRX deal that Ray Evernham and Stewart are putting on, that they're putting Bloomquist in the car for those dirt races.
Yeah.
He will show things in those cars against those guys because he'll figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the biggest problem with Scott is his own mind. He'll screw himself with his own mind. I mean, if he had somebody all he had to do is just sit down a damn thing and drive it. I mean, he's me and Tater was talking about it. Put him in a race car, no thought, that guy will wear you out.
He'll make any car better, I'm telling you, when he gets in it. Scott's just like, you know, I mean, I think they showed up a little bit when Strickler drove his car. I mean, now he didn't win the race. Now he might win one this week or next week, but I think that with the shoe was on the other foot, and you can put Scott in one of his cars, he could maybe be a little bit better, you know. And I'm not taking nothing away from Kyle Strickler because he's a hell of a wheel man. But this Scott, you know, I mean, how can you degrade him?
No.
Look what he's won and
Right.
what he's did. I've seen him get in cars when he drove our cars back in the early 90s. I've seen him get in Doug Wiggs' car at Cedar Lake when he broke his. And this Wiggs couldn't make a show, and Scott was within a tenth and a half being the best car, running in the top 5 of the Cedar Lake Nationals. It's just the guy's that good, and you know, you got some other ones that's that good too. The older generation. Now the new generation, I don't think they've raced long enough to pick out the ones that's going to be solid like the older guys. That's my opinion.
Well, here, my opinion is what we've done with these younger guys is, and Steve Francis made. I listened to an interview to him one time when he was ready to quit. He's like, you know, I spent my whole life racing these cars trying to keep them straight. He said they don't, we're I can't do that. I've raced my entire life doing this. I done it this way. I'm done. So, and I'm not taking anything away from a Bobby Pierce or a Tyler Erb or anybody like that, but these cars are aggressive. You gotta wheel them. You gotta, you gotta do that. And I think that's what's helped those kids, or what I'm gonna call kids, and what's hurt maybe the Billy Moyer and the Scott Bloomquist and the older generation.
Hey, I got to tell a story. I was just talking about that. We built a new car for, what's his name in Madison there? Shoemaker.
Brian Shoemaker.
And they was over practice in a Brownstown, and Rick Hines drove it, to Jeremy Hines. And then Rick drove it, and Shoemaker drove it. And Brian told me down at the shop this week, he said, man, I'm pretty good, but he says, man, you just got to drive that car every lap like it's the last one to make it circle that corner. And I said, duh. You know what I mean? Have you watched the crate races at Brownstown?
Yes.
You got to run every lap like it's the last one.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I told Taylor, I said, man, that's the first time I ever actually got to sit in one of those cars. And thanks to Brian, appreciate you letting me do it. But I made some laps and everything, and I was like, when I did make good laps, I was like, man, I'm like, I'm bent. I'm like, of course, nowadays I'm so used to floating around there straight, but, man, to doing that, I was like, and I told Josh even, I was like, man, I feel like I was too bent. We went around there pretty, I made a couple of pretty decent laps, so, I was like, maybe I get it now. I understand it. You're not bent. That's just the way this works. This is how these cars work. You can't go in there and play around and try to point it in the corner straight or nothing like that. That's not how this works. You got to drive these race cars. And I don't care if you got a 500 or 400 horse motor or a 900 horse motor. You have to drive these cars nowadays. And that's the same thing that I listened to that interview with
Steve Francis.
Steve Francis. He said the same thing. And his interview made more sense to me than anybody, And, that's the way it is, And right now, we know we got a good race car out there. It's having the good, right people steering that thing, driving it. And, we just got a lot of young, like locally, we just got a lot of young
and
inexperienced that don't know exactly, what to do in them things or where to be at or whatever. That's what's going on right now. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting there bashing nobody. Everybody has to learn. You have to learn.
Well, going back to Justin Bowling, when we talked to him last week, that was one thing I talked to him in the 3 years he's been doing it. And he said his big challenge this year is I have to make aggressive moves on the racetrack.
Right. Exactly.
I cannot sit back. When I see opportunities, I have to go put the car in there.
Hey, here's the problem with that class. Any kart race you go to in the country, I don't care if it's a 200 to win to 20,000 to win. By the rules, you're all equal. When you put that many cars on a racetrack that can't get away from each other, it takes skill, it takes knowledge, it takes ability to be able to move forward. And that's just
because you can't outmotor everybody.
Right. There's just no way. And that's why I told Tater, I said the reason them guys are killing each other last Saturday night. And I said, man, nobody can get away from anybody. They can't really get away. Don't get me wrong. There's about 3 or 4 maybe
that are a step ahead,
way ahead of
the next 7 to 8.
But you take that other crowd, they can't really get away from each other. And it's, I'm not saying they can't drive a race car. I'm not saying they don't have good parts, good pieces. I'm not saying that they have to have a Masterbilt car to do this. I'm saying there's guys out there that have really good race cars that don't go around the racetrack very well. And I'm not saying it's because of them. It's just the knowledge. It's the knowledge as the guy that sits in the seat. It's the knowledge of the guy that works on the car, being probably the same person in a lot of aspects here. But you, just like Tater and I've talked, I mean, you have to be really good. If you don't have a really good person working on your race car, you got to be a really good person that can do that, plus be a really good race car. Mm-hmm. If that makes any sense. Because, you know, we've seen great race car drivers, good race car drivers. I watched Don O'Neill. I watched Don O'Neill wheel the shit out of stuff that I'm like, there's no way that car go around the racetrack, and he'd do it. There's just not that many people out there, especially this younger generation. There's just not that out there. But also, I've seen Don O'Neill and stuff that I thought he would just kill them in, and he didn't. You know what I mean? So, I think, and you know, Tanner and I have talked, it's the knowledge of the race car. You have to have somebody, whether it's the driver or a crew member or somebody, has to have knowledge of that race car and be able to see what that race car is doing or feel what that race car is doing to make the right move to become from 5th to win or from 10th to 5th.
Well, there's a lot of places that we race with over the year that I can, when we was racing with Don, that, you know, I mean, we went to Columbus, Mississippi. Most of the time, we was a 6th to 12th place car. We couldn't win because for what we was doing was the wrong thing. Well, the changes that we made on our car made us where we was competitive and we was good enough to win a couple of big races. But, I mean, Don told me what he needed, but it didn't say this, this, and this. I can't do this, Tater. You got to fix this, you know? And you learn from them guys what you do. It ain't always, oh, I'm so smart, I know exactly what to do. You work through it and you say, man, that's the right direction. Maybe I need to go some more, you know?
And once you find you've gone too far, you back it up a little bit.
There is no manual that teaches you how to race these cars because there's too many different variables in where you go race. Whether it's open, crate, super, whatever it is, and whether you're racing in Mississippi or Junction City, Kentucky, or Brownstown, or Cedar Lake, Wisconsin, or Knoxville. It's all different. So you got to build that manual. Do you build that manual in a year? No. And sometime when a guy prices a car, whatever, say, man, that thing's pretty high. It depends on what kind of knowledge comes with it, too. If you get some help. You see what I mean? The problem is the lower class racer or the some of the racers, they don't get no help. I mean, they're starving to death for it. You can't get it, you know. It's about like me. If you ain't got no money and you want to learn how to operate a computer, nobody's going to teach you. Now, if you got some money, say, man, I'll teach you how to run a computer or whatever it might be. It depends on our society has changed. It's service-oriented anymore. It's like McDonald's and Burger King. We don't want to make our stuff. We want to go buy it. We want it now. We want a lawnmower. We want it now.
Absolutely.
And that's what we've turned into is a service-oriented society.
Well, and I think it's interesting, too, when you talk about that manual and the years it takes to build it. You just said on here, you know, how much you've enjoyed testing the last couple of years and all the stuff you've learned.
Yeah.
And we've talked before, you know, the accolades, the races you've won with Mastersbilt, and the guys you've had sit in the seat. People could sit and say, well, how are you still learning? But that's the whole thing, is how these cars change, how it continues to update. And I think for people, though, that's the whole thing. As soon as you think you figured it all out, you're behind.
Hey, we left the shop a while ago thinking we was in pretty good shape. I'll guarantee you right now we're probably not. This stuff changes. It don't change daily. It changes hourly anymore. I mean,
somebody's figuring something out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Somebody's racing somewhere right now that's doing something that nobody else is doing at the moment. That's maybe it may be the next great thing.
And when you get on a run and you can win a race or 2 or 3 or 4 and have a good month or whatever, you better enjoy it, because that thing can go south as quick as it's north.
Yep.
It is what it is. You mean, because in the same stuff that you did that was working, it won't get you up front or whatever. And sometimes it's fate. Sometimes it's luck. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes the guy works on his car, and his car is good because his reflection of his finish was because of bad qualifying number. You know, a wreck in a heat, or you know what I mean? The circumstances that happens to you determines your night. If you get a bad qualifying lap and you're starting on that and you dig a hole, you cannot hardly get out of it no more.
No, there's too many out there that's doing the same thing you're doing. You know, and all right, last night, Bobby Pierce killed him in that race. Okay, John Davenport ran second. Kyle Larson ran third.
Pretty much how they started, wasn't it?
Right. So there you go. I mean, the thing about it is my guess is Billy Pierce does not have the equipment that those two cars behind him has.
I think everybody would agree with that.
So, but I'm not saying that Billy or Bobby is that much better behind the wheel as those two guys. I believe they're all very, very good. But the thing about it is like, you got Davenport that's a very financed outfit, very financed, and he runs second. And he's run second in these flow races how many times now? So now you take Kyle Larson, which we know Kyle Larson's a phenom. He's but also Kyle Larson is in probably one of the most engineered race cars that we're gonna fight against. Okay, so you got 3 different
groups
aspects of this whole deal. You got Bobby Pierce, which I pat on him on the back.
Yeah.
Good, hell yeah, great. Because he don't have what those other two have. He don't have the funding that Davenport has, and he don't have the engineering that
Larson has.
But he got the job done. Then they run second, third. But I guess what I'm getting at is things. I don't know. It's just like I said, you hit it at that right time. You hit it at the right time, and things work out. But it's just like Davenport. I mean, things ain't working out for him. I mean, and he's got all kinds of money floating his
you
way.
got to look at Jonathan. He struggled there for a year,
Right.
year
I mean,
and a half.
he's just. It's like nothing's hitting his what. It ain't that he's bad.
Right.
Yeah.
It just ain't hitting. I mean, and that's just the way. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Is this is the way this racing works?
Yeah,
I mean,
you like I say, the years that you have a good year, you
better
better
take it.
because, like I said, Jonathan a year or two ago, man, he struggled.
Mhm.
He had a couple
Right.
of bad years.
Right.
And look at Jimmy Owens. He won the Lucas Oil
There
points
you go.
last year. There for 2 years, man. That guy, I got to take my hat off for him to hang in it. He kept digging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for 2 years you were waiting for him to announce he was hanging it up and being done.
Yep.
But the other thing that's interesting about what you just said there with, talking about that starting position and Pierce and Davenport and Larson, I think sometimes people don't realize either, even if you've got the better car, there's a huge difference between being better and getting around the guy in front of you.
Exactly right.
I mean, there's a lot of times faster cars run second or third
Yes.
because you can't if the guy can drive well and block your line and keep you off your line and run through lap cars well, there's a huge difference between being faster and passing.
I think that's what the difference is in our cars this day and age, is they are track sensitive, pattern sensitive, and all the cars is built the same way to run the same pattern.
Right.
The
right.
best cars now is the cars that is you can motivate them to pass a guy.
Right. Right.
Anymore, it's not how fast you can go. I don't think sometimes you got to get your car good enough that it can be motivated to pass somebody, whether it be in traffic, whether you got to follow that guy to traffic.
Right.
If a car that's very drivable, I think can win a race. Now, if they run so many laps and you can't ever get to traffic or whatever, maybe not. But the car that's more raceable can win a race. Heck, Scott's did it for years, guys.
Right, exactly. Scott was the one guy that would, you can't pass them by following them. You have to figure out how to pass cars, and I get this whole aero thing. We're so super late model racing is so much. So we got so many people down there in the Carolinas that are so much about wind tunnel and
engineering.
We're aero sensitive, and I don't believe that these cars are that aero sensitive. I get it. We go to West Virginia or we go to Eldor or we go to somewhere big. I can get it, but I don't believe that we're at Brownstown and somebody took the air off my nose. I don't believe that. I believe the problem is my nose was too close to you and I had to lift. And my car could not sustain that. You know what I'm saying?
It changed the posture.
It changed the attitude of the race car.
When you lifted the gas,
it put me in a push.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because of the arrow, it was because of my foot. Now, that's the way it has to happen because you can't, otherwise you're going to drive over the guy in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so I don't get into this arrow thing as much. And, I think, my opinion, coming into this as a new recomer after 20-some years out of the industry, I get whatever, but I don't believe in this arrow as much as some people. I do not believe in that. I believe in the mechanical part of it. And I believe that if there was a way that a driver could run up behind somebody and have to lift and his car not change, you would never hear about this arrow thing. But
because if his car doesn't get out of attitude,
right,
when he lifts right there and he can get right back on the throttle, he's not falling back.
Right. And which that's stuff we are, that's things we are, working on and doing. But, these guys that it almost looks like to me it's an excuse a lot of times, I'm not out there racing with the guys. I shouldn't say that, but still, it just seems like an excuse a little bit to where that, I get it maybe at Eldor or maybe, when we're running 120 mile an hour down straightaway, I can get it. But also I can get it if we're running 120 mile an hour, we're on a pretty good straightaway. So that car's up like this. Well, I can tell you, you sustain a car up like that on them bars like that thing's gonna not want to drive very far. You know what I mean? It's not like driving your pickup truck down the highway. It's a little different. You're, so, I guess if you just twitch that steering wheel just a little bit, that car is going to do, everything happens very fast in those race cars. I do know that now. But I think I really truly believe that you can come up with something. We can come up with something that can race well. The right setup that can race well and can do that to where we'll take some of those guys that are very talented, but we can open up their curve, if that makes any sense. If we can open up their curve a little bit, that would make a big difference in this sport.
Well, and it goes back to those older school guys too. I remember when we had Jeff Wilson on here and we were talking to Jeff and we brought up simulators and Jeff, laughed and said, that's bullshit, that simulator won't do anything. And he said, because you can't feel it in your rear end. He said, if you can't feel it in your rear end, you don't know the car. And I think that part of, in my opinion, I've never sat in the seat, but from an outsider, I think back in the day, a guy could feel something and had the ability to adjust more in the car, how he was driving, his driving style, to adapt to a missed setup. And now I think it goes back to somewhat of what you're saying. If I've got a lift and the car's out of attitude, there's not much I can do outside of that now.
Yeah,
so
there's a spot right there that if you back up or you can't charge, you keep going, the car's built to do this, So if you mess it up, you got to recover. Well, when you recover, you lose ground. So, and what Jeff, back in the day, Jeff's right. Back in the day, we were more ass sensitive. We were more about that kind of stuff. And but today, you got to be on that right front. That car's got to be steering around the corner, and if you have to back that up, and that car can't recover that, it causes problems. And that's what I believe everybody's working on. Mm-hmm. Not just us or everybody's working on that situation.
It's going to be very interesting in the next 3 or 4 years to see where racing goes, because I've been involved with some of the sanctioning bodies, and they've been at the shop, matter of fact, this past week, and they've looked at different ways to motivate and to change this rule and change that rule. And them guys are looking for some way to make these cars more competitive or more even, or they're just looking at the ways to do that. So, it's eventually going to happen.
They want that ability. The most exciting racing is racing where cars can battle and pass back and forth, and that's what everybody wants to get to.
Yeah. So I don't know what the answer is. We build them to the rules and try to go beyond them some, and that's up to them guys to decide that. I know it's like saying, well, we're going to change motors this year. Well, they got all super motors, and you got, say, 300 guys that run supercars or whatever out there. It's got unlimited motors. You say, well, we're going to make you run 358s this year. They can't do that because there's 300 guys out there that's got 4 or 5 motors apiece. And some people say, well, you need to fix the rule with the motors. Man, you can't do that because there's too many of them out there. That would have to be a 2 or 3 year deal to phase some of that stuff out. And, hard tires or whatever, I don't know if that's the answer. It's probably going to come down to some kind of body rule, because I knew back in the day when it was struggling and Bob Members started a UMP deal, we come from wedge cars to a car that looked like a shoebox. But it went from our racing was pretty much dead supercars to the UMP fixing it. Now, I don't know if that'll fix it today or not. I ain't saying what it is, but what did fix our racing around here regionally is them 604 crate motors. Now, am I telling you every 604 crate motor out there is legal? Who knows? But
you're never going to know.
You're never going to know, because the problem is you can't hire a guy you can't get a tech man that can make enough to do that. You know what I mean? And when you're out there racing for $700-800, how are you going to tear down a guy's motor or whatever? You can't do that. But I can tell you one thing: it saved her racing around here regionally and local with them 604s. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, and I'll go back to this, and I think that's a great point to what we were talking about earlier when we talked about touring series. And I'm not saying this because I'm not knocking those major touring series, but you go back and look at the history of local and regional racing, Brownstown Speedway, Florence, Eldora. Those weren't about touring series. Those guys, the best of the best, raced right around here. And when you go down to Speed Weeks in Florida, it was still the guys from around here that were going down there to get the chance. So that's the other part too, as we look at this crate deal and as it grows, it's what super racing was back in the 80s and 90s, because guys are attached to this local area, and they don't have to have that touring series to go run.
Them guys want to go be able to outrun the guys that they race around there regionally. You know what I mean? You could just name the names off over there right now that want to outrun each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see it. And some of the guys that got our cars, I know that their new car, we got a couple of them that's going to be over in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Well, them guys want to win them races. You know, one of them is at their Shoemaker and Jeremy Hines. You know what I mean? And Jeremy can win them races. He's won super races at Brownstown. And Shoemaker's won some races in his crate car too. Them guys want to go be competitive. And it ain't about, you know what I mean, they both got jobs and businesses and whatever. They're not going to get rich racing that car. They want to be competitive, and if they can win Saturday night, they're going to beat your chest because they outrun the guys they outrun.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's the same, goes away with Tyler Neal and the other bunch over. Good for them guys. You know what I mean? That they get their racing fix and racing local and don't have to break the bank to do it.
Absolutely. And can still, you know, and can still put themselves in that class and that history book of, you know, like you just brought up Tyler Neal, what he's done so far this year, getting off to the start he has. I mean, you know, people were calling him Rick Gum there for a while, and
He's got to be cheating. He's got to be cheating.
But, you know, it is. I mean, that's what's so much fun about that group that's over there is you've got 10 to 12 guys that are there every week that just want to beat each other.
Right.
Oh, yeah. That's when you go to Brownstown, there's about 3 or 4 of them you're going to have to get over and wrestle around with.
Yeah.
And they're going to run good.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, you talk about Tyler, Shelby, Peden.
Yep.
You know, those 3 are going to be up front, and you're going to deal with them every week. You throw Raymond Humphrey in there and some of those others.
And as long as the summer goes, I'm telling you, you're going to add 2 or 3 more in there. So there'll be 6 over there, and you can win one night or the one weekend and run 5th or 6th the next weekend. And it's not no shame. It's just your qualifying lap or your heat race or circumstances. You see what I mean? Just like you said, sometimes fastest car don't always win a race.
Absolutely. And you know, and that's what I think is so exciting. And don't get me wrong, yeah, it's cool when the touring series comes in, but for a race fan that doesn't think there's great racing going on in that crate class, and go out and watch because there's great racing all over the place.
Yeah. Man, you know, that class is the class right now. And you know, I told Tater this earlier this week. I said, you know, people come to, man, that pure stock classes went down, or how modified classes went down. Or I told Tater, I said, you know, that crate class is sustained. It ain't that it's getting way bigger. It's just when somebody leaves, somebody comes in. Type deal. It just has sustained this long that's becoming the class. I mean, that's the class, you know. And for an average person that don't know anything really truly about late model racing, you walk in the grandstands and there's no supers there, you don't have a clue the difference between that car and a supercar. I mean, it's good racing. It's good racing. I mean, you know, them guys are killing each other for it. I mean, and that's what, as a fan,
you want to see.
That's what will pick people in the stands if you can come over there and see that, you know. And I mean, you know, that's probably, I ain't saying that's what our concentration is, but that's what we're working at. You know, that's what we're headed towards. You know, we want to make sure we got a good crate car out there.
Yeah. Well, this weekend down in the Tennessee area, they got 4 nights in a row. They paid $2,000 to win the crates. You know, and Mitch has got a race down at 411 June the 25th. That's $10,000 to win the crate. So there is some races out there that pays. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like the touring series that pays that every week. But if you search around that southeast, they've got some big crate races. They do. And just like Brownstown, that's a lot of them's major events. Like there's a lot of tracks down in the south that they'll have their Friday night or Saturday night races. They'll have 602, 604, and then they got a beginner class, mods, and something else, and they have 130 or 140 cars on the grounds.
Right.
And that's their major class. And I mean, a lot of them's drawing a good grandstand to watch him too.
Well, that's like I said, when I followed that American Crate All-Star Series, I mean, and the names down there that are super names that run regional super races, you know, when you're talking about a Cody Hedgecock or a Randy Weaver that also are running crates every week because they've got those opportunities to run for that money, and it's great competition. But you're exactly right. The grandstands are full for those races down there.
They do. They draw a lot. They've also got that there's still that Topless still
Yep.
head racing. They had a big race. We was at Smoky Mountain about 5 weeks ago, and they had the super late models and then the topless outlaws.
Topless Outlaws, yeah.
And they had a pile of cars.
They draw a heck of a crowd, a group of cars.
And good racing. I mean, I've been to Smoky Mountain quite a few times, but that was the best racing that weekend with the supercars and them they're still heading topless that I'd seen since I've been going down there now. I mean, in the past I hadn't been a big fan of Smoky Mountain, but the Sellers that owns that track, he has come a long, long way. And you know what I mean? In that area down there, when you go down the area, you can watch the races. You can also ease your way over and battle that traffic at Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg. But I'm telling you, when the pandemic was at its worst, that area down there never shut down.
No, that's where I was at, between Bulls Gap, Crossville, and Smoky Mountain. That's where I spent most of the spring last year because that's the only place that was racing.
Yep.
And I remember it was probably April, into April, the first time I went down the Bulls Gap for their big weekend. And I walked in, and that place was packed seat to seat. And they were full on.
We went and raced a race at Ray's. It was during the pandemic. And there was like 3 of us, the crew could go. There's 25 cars. Then we went to Boyd's to run the next Saturday night. The deal was down there, $20 on Friday night, $25 on Saturday night.
Yeah.
That's what the deal was.
Roll them in.
There was no deal on COVID. That's what the deal was, 20 and 25.
Yep.
3 or 30.
Yep.
We don't care.
We don't care.
So, and just before we jump off here, because we are at an hour already, but just so everybody out there listening knows, big weekend at Brownstown Speedway this weekend with the Bobby Wilson Memorial. $5,000 to win Super Late Model Show, Friday and Saturday night racing action on both nights. And come out, check out the Bobby Wilson Memorial there at Brownstown Speedway and support that event this weekend. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this or not, but Gerald's also working on something for Brownstown too, the North Vernon racetrack over there. We're putting up $100 for every feature.
Yes, I've seen this.
For a Mastersbilt car to win. If it don't win, it goes to the next week. So if they go to the end of the year and it's 12 or 14 races, it'll be $1,200 or $1,400. So somebody's going to get that money unless we don't win a race. But whoever the first one to win is, if it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they'll get 100 every week multiplied. So. And
I love that idea. I think I saw when she posted that the other day on Facebook, and it's just a cool thing for those Masterbilt drivers out there to have that opportunity to go and get a little bit of a bonus on it.
Yeah. Well,
if they want to put me out of a job, let it go for a while.
Well, if it goes too long, Rick will be out there in his own car trying to get an opportunity.
We'll have to make sure he wins so we don't have to pay the money.
Gotta get my paycheck somehow.
Well, guys, I want to say this. Like I said, we're already at an hour, but I appreciate both of you coming on. And, like I said, we're big fans and supporters of Mastersbilt, and I love you guys being down here in town. And we're going to keep pulling for you guys, and any way we can help push you guys, we're going to do the best we can.
Yeah, well, like I say, we're not the young guys. We're the older guys. Well, Rick and Josh, them guys are young guys. I'm older, and Keith and myself, we've been fortunate enough that we've got on the stage about everywhere. But we still want to win races regardless. It's like, here's an example, Billy Moyer and Scott, I bet you if you'd ask them guys, would you want to win the World 100 again? You daggone right, 100%, And we want to run as good as we can. Man, I like winning at Brownstown. I want to win one of them crate races over there. It was unfortunate we lost Marty and Larry Hartwell this year. They quit racing. But, man, I was just going to go over and race with the Peden and the Neil and that bunch. You know what I mean? I think that'd be cool to have a car in there swapping paint with them guys.
Well, and I'll tell you that deal with Larry getting out and Marty getting out, I hate it this year just because there is so much competition up front. And we all know that, Larry wouldn't have run mid-pack very long. He'd have got Marty right up front, and Marty being the wheelman he is, that would have been a lot of fun watching those guys mix it up.
Yeah, it would be. You just got to get over there and get after it, But here's the deal, though. When you get them teams to do that, it takes commitment. It's hard for them to not go, not go. You know what I mean? Man, it takes a commitment to do that.
You got to race.
That's right. You got to race.
Man,
and right now, I'm so full with stuff to do. It's hard for me to go to Brownstown or Vernon every Saturday night, I gotta service them guys in the southeast too down there, and something else too. We got another kid who's driving our car, Cade Loudy. Scott's or Captain's boy. He ran that race down there at Bulls Gap and qualified really good. I think the kid can make a good racer because he's more or less like your Bobby Pierce and Huddy and them.
His dad has been in this. His dad worked with Scott. His dad worked with Auckland. His dad's worked with everybody in the industry. He has that kid should have the knowledge already distilled in him before he even sits down on the seat. And he's a pretty accomplished go-kart racer. And I believe that, just he'll know where to put the car regardless if he can put it there or not. If that makes sense. I mean, he's going to know what to do.
Well, and you can see that in drivers. Sometimes the car's not going to do what they want, and maybe to the untrained eye it looks like they made a mistake. But if you understand, if the car had stuck or if they'd have been able to make that move, that was the move they were going to be able to win the race on.
Hey, there's somebody else got a towel shot at. That there Eric Spangler up in Michigan, he won that 5,000 win race 2 weeks ago, and then he got wrecked on Saturday night. He's got a new car like Pierce and them guys got running down there. This guy ain't hardly run out of the top 2 or 3 in the last 4 or 5 weeks. Now, he got wrecked, and we had to rebuild his car last week, but that guy's hung in there with us, and, man, he has won some good races so far in Michigan.
So he's won what? Has he won 3 or 4 this year?
I think he's won 4 races and run a couple seconds.
Yeah, already this year.
And the race that he won was one of them challenge races 2 weeks ago, or a week ago on Friday night. And it was really impressive.
Yep.
And that's, again, it goes back to, Rick, what you started out with this, is that, the people who think that Mastersbilt is dead or closed or gone are so far off that it's not even funny.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's not going away. I mean, that's what, just racing in general. Tater and I talked about it today. I said, it ain't going away. And I didn't go back down there to fail. I mean, I told Tater when we first talked, I said, look, I'm down there to fail. We're going, and Tater's already, the path is already made. It's already headed that right direction. And, hey, our new car is good. I'm telling you, our new race car is good. I don't care what anybody wants to say. I'll put it up against the next R1.
Well,
I don't give a shit.
Barry Eller, our dealer down there in Oxford, South Carolina, he said, Tater, your cars are good. We just got to get more guys to run some supercars for you. You know what I mean? Like I said, that Michael Rouse runs really good down there. Dustin Mitchell's getting a new car, and that Johnny Pursley's got a new one ordered. So we got some good guys that's getting ready to get in the cars. Dustin drove for that Corky Williams, and he's won a pile of races. They had some differences.
And he won 4 or 5 already this year.
Yep, he won one of the ultimate shows down there.
So, okay.
Like I say, you know what I mean? Now, they had some differences and split up, but Dustin, we're building him a new car right now. So, like I say, we got some pretty good guys.
So everybody out there, be on the lookout because Mastersbilt's headed back in the right direction, and a lot of exciting things going on right down there south of Crothersville. So, gentlemen, I appreciate you. Hope to have you back on again soon, and hope to share a beer with you at Thirsty's here pretty soon, too.
There you go.
All right, guys, we'll be back in 2 weeks.